Welcome. Hello. I'm Alex Villasante. I am the online program manager of the Highlights Foundation, joining you from Northeastern Pennsylvania on the traditional and contemporary lands of the Lenape Nation. Welcome to our February HF Gather celebration of the Brown Bookshelf, where we look forward to hearing from celebrated authors Kelly Starling Lyons, Olubemisola Rude Perkovich, Tracy Baptiste, Wade and Cheryl Hudson, publishers of Just Us Books, which just celebrated their 30th anniversary. They are incredible guiding lights for the children's book community, and we are so happy to have them with us. Tonight's program embodies the mission of the Highlights Foundation to amplify the voices of storytellers who inform, educate, and inspire children to become their best selves. We're here tonight to reaffirm the Brown Bookshelf's industry call to action, celebrate this year's 28 Days Later program, and announce a new partnership with the Brown Bookshelf called Amplify Black Stories. This program is in a webinar mode, which means that your video and audio as attendees is off, but we're able to see your notes in the chat, hello again, and in the Q&A box. In all that we do in Highlights Foundation, including the use of our chat and Q&A box, we expect no hate, no harm, and no harassment of any kind. We hope to answer as many questions as we can tonight, and we'll take questions from the Q&A box only. So do post them in there because we're eager to hear from you. The planning for tonight's HF Gather, along with the Amplify Black Stories program, came from the hard work of your speakers tonight, Kelly Starling Lyons, Olubemisola Rude Perkovich, Tracy Baptiste, and Wade and Cheryl Hudson, along with Crystal Allen, Renee Watson, Paula Chase Hyman, who you see here, all of these people, and the many supportive members of the Brown Bookshelf. Joining me tonight are Executive Director of the Highlights Foundation, George Brown, and Program Director Allison Green Myers, and so many of our Highlights friends and faculty. It is really beautiful to see. Welcome one and all. And finally, with gratitude as always, I will hand things over to you, Kelly.
Thank you so much. And what a pleasure to have this opportunity to celebrate our work on the Brown Bookshelf and to connect with our extended family. Thank you to everybody for supporting us over the years. It means so much to us. I'm going to share my screen and talk briefly about how we came to be and then lead into our call to action and our exciting new collaboration with Highlights. So the Brown Bookshelf, we are a team of Black children's book creators who have the mission of amplifying, raising awareness of Black creators. This was founded and the idea was conceived by two of our members, Varian Johnson and Paula Chase Hyman, who were YA authors and were, really thinking about, why is there no place where people can go to learn more about the breadth and the depth of Black children's literature? And they had the insight and the vision of creating this collective. They reached out to me, to Dawn Tate and Carla Surratt, and we were the initial group. And we're so blessed to have this family that has just grown over the years. And we just celebrate each person who's part of the Brown Bookshelf because they each bring a unique perspective to what we do. We're a volunteer organization. So all of us, along with our creative work, are spending time dedicated to boosting others. And I feel really blessed to be part of such a generous team. On the Brown Bookshelf, we have a lot of initiatives. We've done many different projects over the years. One of our newest ones is called Generations Book Club, and that launched this summer. And every month we offered 2 book lists that gave reading recommendations for the whole family, from picture books through adult titles, our first time offering adult titles. We wanted to really make sure that along with raising awareness, we were also helping to boost sales of Black children's book. We know how important that is in terms of getting marketing support, making sure that voices are centered, And so this was a project that we started, and we're so happy that it was, warmly welcomed by all of you, and we've continued it. So every month, we're taking a break this month for 28 days later, but we will offer a reading list. And our partner for that is Brain Layer Bookstore. So we also wanted to celebrate a Black-owned bookstore. Part of our mission too is to make sure that people are buying with intention and understanding that your purchase sends a message to the publisher about the kind of books you value and want to see more of. So when you support a book by a Black creator, that means we'll get more of them. So that was part of the reason why we created Generations Book Club. We do a lot of different kinds of collaborations. Vanessa Lois Kambadi has been amazing and supportive of our work from the very beginning. She has the African American Children's Book Fair in Philadelphia, and one year had the team come. And we kind of knew each other online and became a family that way, but not all of us had even met until some went to the book fair. So that was really cool, and we appreciate her. Want to also shout out Laura Pegram of Quayle and the Color of Children's Literature Conference. She has had several of us as faculty members. We were able to offer a Brown Bookshelf Scholarship. And part of our mission too is to elevate the understanding of the many ways that Black creators are working together to change the industry, pushing for change and supporting each other. Kwame Alexander, Jacqueline Woodson, Jason Reynolds invited us to be hosts of the Kid Lit Rally for Black Lives this summer. And that was something that really raised our profile and let people know, one of our goals is to celebrate people who are under the radar. And though we've been around for 14 years, sometimes we're a little bit under the radar too. So we loved the opportunity to partner with them, and our family, all of you really just blossomed. So we thank you for being part of our Facebook page and our Twitter and our Instagram. And we hope that you continue to connect with us and celebrate Black children's book creators. Recently, it was announced about another exciting partnership we're doing with We Need Diverse Books. I want to say thank you to Danielle Clayton and Bree McDaniel and Ellen O for their invitation to partner. And that's a really exciting marketing initiative. And we'll be hearing more of that in days to come. It was also announced in Publishers Weekly if you want to get more information about that. And that brings me to the Highlights Foundation. So the cool thing is several of us kind of got our start through the support of Highlights. Coming to programs and connecting with people and networking and really understanding how to navigate this industry. And so it means so much to us to have the support of Highlights now and in the past. So there's a Brown Bookshelf Scholarship through Highlights. We didn't know about that. Please look out for that. And this month, for 28 days later, Highlights has boosted our honorees. So every week they've done kind of a roundup, and they've been pushing that out. And we're really grateful, and we'll talk more about our collaboration in just a minute. 28 days later is our signature campaign, and the mission of it is to make sure that you know about the many Black voices that are writing for young readers. We have a focus on people that are under the radar. So people who don't always get the marketing dollars, people that don't always get the big awards. And we want to make sure that their hard, important, outstanding work is recognized. We also focus on vanguard authors, people who have paved the way. What we find is that even today in 2021, when people are talking about quote unquote classic children's literature, they aren't thinking about Black creators, and that has to change. So I just want to just show you a few pictures. Do you know who that is? If you don't, check out the Brown Bookshelf. John Steptoe. How about this? Virginia Hamilton. Tom Feelings. Lucille Clifton. And we have featured all of them in our 28 Days Later initiative. our focus on under the radar, we have been doing this campaign for 14 years. So we have a vast archive of people that were debut authors, mid-list authors. We had the big blockbusters when they were first coming out, and we're really proud of that and honored to have the chance to share their work with you. Our class of 2021, I want to say, I know we can't see, you can see me, but I can't see you, but I want to shout out all of our honorees. We're so proud of you and so grateful for the amazing work that you're doing. Highlights has created this poster, which we love, which gives all of our honorees their pictures and their books. And this is going to be available for the first time for download tonight. So look out for that link. That brings me lastly to our activism. We did a declaration in support of Black children that gathered more than 691 signatures. I know many of you were part of that, and really making sure that we affirm to kids that we are there for them, that we are writing for them, and we see them and we love them. This summer, several of us began to talk. Some of us from the Brown Bookshelf, Renee Watson, Wade Hudson, and Cheryl Willis Hudson, about how do we deal with publishing. Every year, the Cooperative Children's Book Center puts out stats that show the number of books by and about people of color, Black children, Native children, and every year we see twice, sometimes 3 times, the number of books that are about us than those who are by us. And that has to change. So we came together and created this call to action that has 4 parts. The first part is to prioritize the work of mid-list Black authors and illustrators by putting the money where the mouth is, by really walking the talk of showing support. What we find is sometimes debut authors come into the field and they get a book or 2, which is great, and then all of a sudden they lose that support. They're not being getting deals as much as they had, and they're not getting the marketing support to be able to have staying power. So we want to change that. We wanted to give some concrete marketing strategies to help publishers create meaningful change. And that comes through knowing how to market our books by supporting Black media, conference coordinators, festival directors, Black marketing professionals. And finally, we wanted to increase the hiring of Black professionals at every level in publishing. We're so lucky to have Wade and Cheryl Hudson as part of our team, and they will now talk more in depth about why Amplify Black Stories matters so much and what it brings to publishers as well as Black creators. So I turn it over to my family, the Hudsons.
Thank you, Kelly. We're so happy to be here. Are we on the screen? Here we are. Cheryl and I are publishers, but we're also authors. And we have been in the business of creating books for children and young adults for more than 30 years. We have seen a lot during those years as we have pushed for more inclusion, diversity, equity in the children's publishing industry. There have been trends that have ended after a few years. There have been stops and starts, optimistic anticipation of change, and the letdown when real change does not happen. And over those 30 plus years, we have seconded the voices and efforts of pioneers like Walter Dean Myers, Patricia and Fred McKissick, Virginia Hamilton and Arnold Adolph, Tom Fieldings, John Steptoe, and so many others who were toiling in the vineyard, so to speak, when we came on the scene. And they came standing on the shoulders of those who had come before them. Those Black Americans and their supporters who wrote books and poems and started newspapers and magazines and publishing companies. The first Black publishing company was established as early as 1823 by the African Methodist Episcopal Church. They all wanted to tell their stories, to have a voice, to define and declare themselves and for the world. The words from the editorial in Freedom's Journal, the first Black newspaper that was published in 1827, stated the case rather succinctly. It declared, "We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. Too long has the public been deceived by misrepresentation of things which concern us dearly. It shall ever be our daily duty to vindicate our brethren when oppressed and to lay the cause before the public. From the press and the pulpit, we have suffered much by being incorrectly represented. Men have not hesitated to represent us disadvantageously without becoming personally acquainted with the true state of things." Now, this declaration still resounds today, and it resounds not only for Black people, but for those who are marginalized, left out, memorialized, and forgotten. And in this age of Black Lives Matter and the fight for social justice, it resonates even louder. Now, current organizations such as the Highlights Foundation, We Need Diverse Books, the American Indians and Children's Literature Blog, networking groups organized by book creators of color and indigenous people, and of course, the Brown Bookshelf, have accepted the baton of justice in children's book publishing that has been passed on to them by Walter, Pat, Fred, Tom, Virginia, and the others and Adolph, who is still with us. And some publishers have all stepped up as well. So we find ourselves here today at this place, at this hour, at an important period for all of us. All the efforts and the commitments of the past and of today coalesce here now. What a propitious time to create transformative change that moves us much closer to the kind of world, the kind of children's and young adult book publishing industry so many of us wish for, strive for, and know is essential. An industry where we are all welcomed at the table and all have a viable voice at that table and all have much to contribute to the meal, the literature that should feed all of us, but especially the children, all of the children.
So let's take a look at what this table can look like. Our meal is the literature that should feed and nourish all of us. As creatives, we are the writers and the illustrators who provide the content, the meat and potatoes and veggies, if you will. Publishers, however, are so very crucial in this entire picture because they are the ones who invite participants to the table. They open the doors for the guests. They welcome them not only to partake of the meal or to bring a dish if it's potluck, but they also encourage conversation during and after the meal. Publishers can house the kitchen, the dining room, the table, the chairs, the tablecloths, placemats, and yes, the congratulatory wine. But as hosts of the dinner table and the dinner party, they assign the nameplates, who sits next to whom, and who even is selected to bless the table. The meal and the success of the entire event could not happen without them. As Kelly said before, in November of 2016, the Brown Bookshelf, which for more than 14 years has been promoting the works of Black children's book creators and advocating for diversity and inclusion in the industry, issued a declaration in support of children that was signed by 691 children's book illustrators, authors, and industry professionals. The signers publicly affirmed their commitment to use their talents and variety of forms of artistic expression to help eliminate the fear that takes root in the human heart amid lack of familiarity and understanding of others, and feeds on stereotypes, bitterness, racism, and hatred. In 2020, the murder of George Floyd and other senseless deaths of Black people put the long-standing deep divisions of country under the world's microscope and forced institutions to deal with these open wounds as they have been created and nurtured for centuries. But recognizing that children's literature is among the most influential literary genres of all, in its call to action, during the months of protests against social justice, the Brown Bookshelf urged the publishing industry and broader children's literature community to look at the infrastructure and operations and to change policies, practices, and beliefs that negatively impact the careers of Black creatives. The children's lit community was asked to imagine a new way of doing business and to combat anti-racist, anti-Black practices that perpetuate in a system that marginalize all of our work. As authors and as illustrators, we know that our books can and must play an important role to help make this a more just and equitable world. The books that we create serve a more notable and noble of purpose to inform, to entertain, to motivate, inspire, and even encourage critical thinking. Within their pages, seeds of wisdom and possibility are sown. In the fight to ensure that Black people are humanized, our books are strikingly crucial. So what are some of the benefits of amplifying Black stories, this initiative for publishers? Well, number one, there are so many more stories and experiences from which to draw when there is an open table and not one that is segregated or used to marginalize others. Two, there are other markets to cultivate where book sales can be increased. Publishing diverse books will improve the bottom line. Take a look at the recent New York Times bestsellers and other award-winning titles, including Caldecott, Newbery, Seibert, Coretta Scott King, and others. Many more authors are diverse now. Their books do sell. Readers reap the benefits of great literature, and publishers gain financially as well. Three, at Just Us Books, we believe that good books, yes, good books make a difference. And paraphrasing Rudine Sims Bishop, that's because they provide crucial windows, mirrors, and sliding glass doors. Four, publishers can learn much from Black book creators and from others in the communities and markets that they need to reach. So for writers, this initiative affords opportunities to network, to make important connections, and to grow. It also provides opportunities to share their most important experiences and perspectives with one another and with publishing professionals, all with a focus on getting more books written by Black book creators published, selling more books that are published, and most importantly, getting those books into the hands of our young people that represent who we are as a diverse country and world.
So Cheryl and I are just so happy to be a part of this initiative. And we encourage others in the publishing profession to join us. It is now time for action. We talk about the kind of world we would like to see. Now is the time to do the hard work to make that world a reality. And we thank the Brown Bookshelf and Highlight Foundation for bringing this initiative to the fore. And we know that it will make a difference.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Cheryl and Wade, for that history, that testimony. It filled my heart, and it reminded me of just how much more than just words or just language our story means. I'm going to share my screen for a second. So, where are you from? Where are you from is a question that I've been asked a lot my whole life. It's a question that I could answer a million different ways. But one thing that's always consistent for me is that I am from stories. My answer to that question is deeply informed by my experience of stories. And the stories I read, the stories I heard, the stories I wrote, the stories that were very much familiar to me from my particular sense of home and of place and of culture. And then the other stories that involved something completely new that I was able to imagine or reimagine or remix and transform and make a part of my own. And when I think of the Brown Bookshelf and all the things I appreciate about being part of the Brown Bookshelf community, it's that the Brown Bookshelf recognizes that Black storytelling involves the diaspora. Black storytelling is not just one story. The meaning of Black storytelling is deep and wide. And I think that all of the Black children's book creators that I know have had this experience of our stories being marginalized, as Charlotte Wade just discussed, of being minimized, of being dismissed. A lot of times, along with the work of creating and crafting our stories, we're also having to do this work of fighting to be recognized, to fight against the denial of our very existence. And we're too often working within that system they describe that devalues our voices or sends us this message that we should just be happy to be here. And I'm really honored to work with the members of the Brown Bookshelf team because we ourselves are a team with a variety of perspectives, a variety of experiences. So we value and respect the diversity within the wide world of Black storytelling. And we developed this initiative with a deep foundational love and respect for our stories. I think that we conceived of Amplify with this idea, this is one of my favorite poems that I share a lot by Gwendolyn Brooks, and it's an excerpt from her poem, Paul Robeson. But in thinking about the storytelling component of Amplify, these words, we are each other's harvest, we are each other's business, we are each other's magnitude and bond, are really the heart of what we discussed and what we were thinking of with the storytelling track. The storytelling track of Amplify is designed to inform, to empower, to encourage, and support Black creators. As we've all discussed, this business can be challenging for all involved, and Black creators face particular challenges. I think a lot of us have signed on to declarations, signed petitions, maybe made pledges in different ways over the past year. And so Amplify Black Stories is both the call and the action. And it's a recognition of how valuable and how influential Black creators are. We're going to feature a series of sessions, and I'll just describe them a little bit, that offer community mentorship for Black creators as they bring their stories to life and provide beloved books for children in today's world. We're really thinking about building and sustaining community, maybe thinking about best practices in critique groups, how to seek and sustain mentorships. We would like to help highlight available resources. We're looking to foster educator connections and bookseller influencer networking. Schools and libraries are a vital part of our community. And it's important for us to talk about how do we share our work, how some of us who might really be interested in working to fill curricular needs, how we might do that, how even curricular programs are developed, how books are purchased within school systems and within communities. All that information is important for us to have and important for us to share in community. school visits, virtual visits, conference presentations and panels. A lot of that can feel mystifying, feel intimidating. And we'd really like to create a space to talk about how to facilitate that. Again, what are some of the best practices in those areas, and how we can really support each other through every aspect of the business, the craft, the grind, the business, the marketing and promotion. We'd really like this program to help Black book creators understand how it works in traditional publishing and really reflect on the strategies and systems that may not always be considered right now in traditional publishing, and how we can work to bring our voices, amplify our voices in that situation, and bring the marketing, promotional, and other entities that traditional publishing sometimes does not recognize or does not value the way Black creators, Black communities, Black storytellers already do. So over this past year, we've really been thrilled to be joining forces with a lot of individuals, communities, organizations, and constituencies, that some of them that Kelly shared, that are helping us really do more than just have everyone say they want to do better. And I was thinking of this quote from Kwame Alexander in the New York Times, where he says, "We are at a crossroads trying to figure out what's next. And in order to get to the other side, we have to wade in the water." And this work is celebratory, it's wonderful, it's beautiful. It's also challenging, and it's also about making a commitment. And so I'm going to invite Tracy Batiste to talk to you about one of those major partnerships and the commitment that we're inviting them to join us in.
Hello, everyone. Hold on, I'm trying to get to my notes. I think, Bemi, you might have to unshare your screen. There we go. So hi, I'm Tracy Batiste, and I am going to talk a little bit about the publishing track. I know that there are probably a lot of questions from the audience, so I'm going to try to keep it brief. But as Kelly said earlier, this is an opportunity for publishers to walk the walk. People have been talking about Black stories and Black storytelling and the problems in equity in the publishing industry for a very, very long time. Wade and Cheryl gave you guys, it was back in the 1800s before, Black storytellers had to go their own route. And this is also why there are a lot of Black storytellers who choose the self-publishing route rather than going to traditional publishing, because there has not been space for Black stories in publishing for very many years. So this is an opportunity for publishers to take actionable steps to increase opportunities, not only for Black creatives, but also for other Black publishing professionals, your editors, designers, publicists, sales and marketing teams, agents, across the board. And the fact is, there is a lot to cover, not just in identifying the creators and the stories that they want to tell, but also in dealing with the fact that even the way that we currently think of as sort of the acceptable way to tell a story has left out Black storytelling in the past. The kinds of forms and formats that we are used to in Western storytelling has really stripped away a lot of the traditional kinds of storytelling methods that people have used across the African diaspora. And why is one way of telling a story better or more valid than any other way? And I think we all have had the experience where we have gotten feedback from an editor or from a publisher that says, well, I don't connect with your story. Or we have gone into the workshop experience and people in the workshop are like, this is not the way you tell a story. A story is supposed to be told this way. Well, who's to say that that is the way and that is the only way? So there are a lot of things that we need to unlearn. There's also the history of Black storytelling in the United States, which Wade and Cheryl covered quite a bit. And it's detailed in case you're interested, in Dr. Rudine Sims Bishop's book, Free Within Ourselves, which I picked up, and you can tell I've started flagging it up. It is the kind of book that will 100% make you angry to read it when you see what the history is and how long the history has been and how long people have been talking about inequities in publishing and the fact that in 2021, we are still having this conversation. So I very much encourage people to pick this up. And then Kelly mentioned the very dismal CCBC numbers. The last set of numbers we have were from 2019 that show that, you know, despite all of this talk that we have been doing, we still have not achieved any kind of equity. In 2019, 11.9% of books were about Black characters, but only 5.7% of books were actually written by Black creatives. And that's either written or illustrated, by the way. So not necessarily just written. Whereas books about white children, talking bears, trucks, monsters, potatoes, etc., represent nearly 3/4, 71% of children's and young adult books that were published in 2019. And we all know that Black storytelling doesn't start in America. It has deep roots across the Atlantic with form and structure as valid as any other in literature, as I mentioned before. But there is also the very practical, what is happening now. If you are a publisher or an editor or an agent, how are you going to address a story that is on your desk right this moment? And what are the best practices for making sure that this book doesn't suffer unknowing bias? Because the truth is, you can't know what you don't know. So that is why we created this publisher's track, because it is an opportunity to try to learn the things that you may not know, or the things that you may not have thought of when it comes to Black stories, telling Black stories, acquiring Black stories, marketing Black stories, reaching Black readers, and all of these things. So the plan is for publishers to gather once a month from March to November this year to talk through all of these many pieces, and it's a lot, that need to be addressed so that we can properly and finally give Black stories their due. And with that, I will turn it over to George and Allison, who are going to talk about the sponsors that we have on board. I'm very happy to say that one of my publishers is on there.
Thank you, Tracy. Thank you, Bemi, for sharing. Thank you, Cheryl and Wade. And thank you, Kelly, for getting us started. Big thank you to, we are so thrilled to have so many publishing industry partners join us in sponsorship and in participation in the program. I do have, one second. Awkward pause and share. So special thank you to our partner sponsors, Benchmark Education, Bloomsbury, and Highlights. Our strengthened partners, the Andrea Brown Literary Agency, Charles Bridge, Newmark Learning, Raycraft Books, the Stamola Literary Agency, and Workman Publishing, Algonquin Young Readers. At the support level, thank you to Boyd's Mills and Kane, to the Children's Book Council, to Galt and Zacher Literary Agency, Just Us Books, Lerner Publishing, and Renee Watson. There are still sponsorship opportunities if any of you are in the publishing industry and want to be a part of the program, or if any of you have publishing partners that you would like to share this program with. We would love to have the sponsorship. We continue to think about how we're figuring out the number of publishing professionals in the cohort. And so we're working to kind of adjust that as we learn more about the needs of our sponsors and talk to them about what they're interested in the program. As well, we do have individual donations would be greatly appreciated for this program. There is a Brown Bookshelf Scholarship Program. All of that is attached to the link to the description on the program and to the sponsorship opportunities. Allison.
Hi, thank you. Wow, thank you for tonight. So far, I am privileged to be able to talk a little bit about how to join, how to apply, and how to sponsor. There are really two ways. Actually, there are three ways to be a part of the program. One is being here tonight. It's sharing the information. It's being our support system. It's helping with our mission to amplify the voices of storytellers, our Black storytellers, for this program. The other way to be a part, of course, is to be a part of the publisher team. And Tracy shared so much about that publisher track. But in order to join and be a part of the publisher track, there is no application. There is only support. We are asking you for your support. And with that support, you are able to join the program. You will build a team, and that team can move flexibly throughout the 9 months together in the cohort. We are really looking for teams to engage in building resources. We are asking for teams who want to listen and who want to take action. We'll ask team members to speak openly about the evolving processes at their agencies or at their publishing houses. And as Tracy shared, the discourse and the dialogue at the sessions is meant to move forward the children's book industry together. And our actions will show commitment and support for Black authors, illustrators, colleagues, and as Sherilyn Wade said, for our readers. I'll be placing the link in the chat for our publisher team sponsorship, which will include your enrollment then in the program. On our other track, that is for our Black storytellers. This includes traditionally and self-published Black storytellers, debut, mid-career, vanguard authors and illustrators across all children's literature genres and formats. We have a very short application to fill out. Again, I will post that in the chat, and you can follow that link. In the application, we would be honored to read about your career and your goals. We are asking you to consider in that application a few questions that directly relate to the Brown Bookshelf's important work. How do you describe the intersection between art and activism? Who has influenced you in that area? And why do you think the Brown Bookshelf's mission to promote Black children's book creators is necessary? That application window opens officially tonight, and it runs through March 15th. If you've already applied because you've been following on social media, you've seen someone's post, we see you, and we're excited to read those applications. A little bit more about that process. We will take a look after March 15th on a committee, and each application will have 2 reviews. And then those reviews will be passed along to the committee at the Brown Bookshelf. Our goal really is to give each application careful attention And then all authors and illustrators will be notified of their status between April 1st and April 7th. And the first meeting of our Black Storyteller track will be on April 21st at 7 p.m., where we gather for the first time as a group. Before moving on to a few other programs or scholarship opportunities from the Highlights Foundation, I wonder if anyone else on the committee on the call tonight has anything that they'd like to add for the application process or for the call for applications tonight. I see you, Bemi.
Well, I mean, Paula already said it in the chat, but I just want to really thank you and George for taking up the call to action and really working with the Brown Bookshelf on this initiative, and just for showing that commitment in a very real way. We appreciate that.
Thank you. Well, I'm going to add a number of links in the chat. I do want to say that the Amplify Black Stories program is specifically for published Black authors and illustrators. We have a number of offerings and scholarships for pre-published authors and illustrators as well. And I'm not going to go through each of them. I want to be sensitive so we have time for questions, but I will put a link in the chat. I hope you'll take time to look at the offerings. I hope you'll take time to look at the special scholarship programs and the wonderful support that we've received from children's book authors and illustrators to have so many programs and scholarships up on our website. So I'll be sure to put that in there. I would say here, I know that we have questions coming in. I want to be sure that we have some time for that. And I want to give us a chance just to take a deep breath and just say thank you so much to the committee that's come together tonight, to the representatives from the Brown Bookshelf. Thank you so much for sharing all you have already with us. But I'm excited to dive into the Q&A unless anyone has anything else that they'd like to share first.
No, nothing else. Just wanted to support what Bemi was saying, and thank you so much to Highlights, and thank you for everybody who has really, thought deeply about ways to push for change. And we're excited about this. We hope we have lots of applications. Often when we're seeing these, kinds of programs, we don't see a focus on mid-career and the mid-list authors and illustrators. So please, this is an opportunity for you to be supported in a major way. There's no cost to you, and we want to celebrate you. So we look forward to getting those applications. I'll have some announcements about the Brown Bookshelf at the end, but I'd love for us to open the questions.
And really, we'd love anyone to jump in with the questions here. It looks like Sonia has a great question, bringing books to kids. It says, 28 days later is a wonderful opportunity for students. Are you sharing this with school libraries and librarians? Where can I direct my local librarians to find this information?
So you can go to thebrownbookshelf.com. We do have 14 years now of archives, so they're great for author studies, great for getting a sense of the richness of Black children's literature through checking out the vanguards, under the radar, people who we covered early in their career who are now multi-award winning creators. So please do use us as a resource. Thank you.
I just want to say that I was one of the first, the Brown Bookshelf was one of the very first groups that ever reached out to me when my first novel came out in 2005. And so I was super thrilled when they asked me to join the team and do the kind of work that had helped me when I started out.
Me too, Tracy.
I
And
should
I'll just add,
mention,
when people are using and thinking to use 28 Days Later, it's not just titles or even biographies. Like, it's really an exploration of craft and looking at people's different paths in the industry and the different ways people work. It can be really inspirational. It can be motivational. It's a real learning tool for writers, for all kinds of educational situations and opportunities.
and I want to underscore too what Femi shared about there not being a single story and a single black narrative. So our celebration of Black creators does not just include those on this continent. So we celebrate people in Britain and Africa, and so please check us out and just see all of the amazing ways that Black creators are making a difference around the world.
I wanted to specifically address, because there are questions that are we getting these to librarians? Educators and librarians have been our primary audience. That's when we initially created this. Our specific mission was for educators, librarians, and parents. It was all three. We don't like to use the term gatekeeper as much anymore, but these are the people who get children's books into the hands of young readers. And so, for that, to that extent, we do all that we can to network in those circles to make sure that they are passing us along as a resource.
Allison, if I could just jump in, we had a couple of questions just about logistics. For this first program, we're accepting 20 storytellers into the program so that we can keep it as a small group to really engage in the learning. And then on the publisher track, can multiple employees at a sponsor level publisher participate? You sure can. And that's what there are on the sponsorship levels. It shows how many participants from a publishing house can participate at those levels, but we are adjusting those, and we're happy to talk to anyone who's interested from the publishing side in participating and try to figure that out to get the right number for you.
Thanks, George. That's great. It looks like there are just a few other questions in the Q&A. If you have any others, you can add them. One of them is a question about the logistics of tonight's program. Will it be available to view at a later date? Yes, we will be sending you the recording, and we'll also be posting the recording on our website and on our YouTube channel. There's a question in here from Yvette, and it says, what are your opinions on children's books written about Black characters by Black authors that center around everyday experiences, as opposed to culturally relevant plot content? Do everyday experiences uphold the integrity of Black children's literature that the society needs?
Absolutely. May I answer that? I'll take this one. That's what I write, actually. My books are for middle graders, and my characters are always children of color, but race never drives the story. All kids are basically the same when it comes to wanting to learn how to ride a skateboard, or hating liver, or I like this boy, but he doesn't like me. These are things that are the same across the board, and there should be stories that show and depict all children in these situations, to eliminate a group because you're saying it should only be about their ethnicity is not the way to go.
And I'm going to chime in too, Crystal, because we both, I think tend to write those type of stories. Yours are way funnier than mine, though. And, but when people ask, what do I write? I usually say, I don't have a big, long synopsis. I always say I write about being a teen while Black. I mean, I just want, those stories to be out there for all readers. I mean, especially for Black readers, so that they can see themselves. So my daughters, so my grandkids, so whoever can see themselves experiencing it. And as far as them being culturally relevant, because we are not a monolith, it's culturally relevant because all of us have these different, pieces of what, is the Black experience or the Black family or the suburban or the city. We all have like kind of little tiny differences. So, absolutely those everyday books are, I don't think we want to be the crabs in the barrel where our, historical books should be more important, or our, books about social justice should be more important. They're all on the same level of importance when it comes to offering young readers a reflection of themselves.
Yeah, I agree. And I really think that the traditional model of publishing kind of sends a message that there's only room for one. And publishers often have said and may still say, like, oh, we already have that Black story. We already have our Black author. And we have infinite stories, and there really is infinite room for all of our stories. And this idea that the scarcity model is false, it's a lie. And what we're trying to do with Amplify, and what all of us and people have been doing over decades, is to show how just wrong that lie is, and that we don't have to buy into that. There's room for all of our stories, and each and every one of our stories, the stories of everyday life, the stories that are maybe explicitly social justice oriented, the stories that show people of different socioeconomic situations, the stories of Black people all over the world. Each and every one of them has value, equal value, and there's no hierarchy, there's no closing the door on them, because they all matter and they all belong in the world of children's storytelling.
I love that. And I love what all of my sisters said. I just want to say that when we're talking about Black stories and the value that we find in stories about Black joy and everyday life, as everyone has said that shared, we want to have all stories. So one thing that saddens me from time to time is when I see, kind of this call for more stories about Black joy while denigrating stories about social justice or about history. And as everyone has said, we need all of it. Mm-hmm. We need the full range, the full power of who we are. So one, as Demi said, isn't higher than the other. We want more of all of it. Carol Boston Weatherford, who writes so many beautiful books, talks about, writing about slavery. And some people say, oh, don't we have enough slavery stories? And she says, think of all of the enslaved people. All of them have stories, and all of them matter. So we're not going to have a moratorium on slavery, civil rights, social justice. We want that and Black joy.
Right.
Well, thank you all. I see that we've come to the top of the hour. This was a special HF Gather this evening. Before we say good evening and go our separate ways, I want to thank everyone who came on the call tonight. And I hope you go forward. I hope you'll apply to the program. I hope you'll share with people that you think would be interested in the program. I want to thank our team here at the Highlights Foundation, and thank Kelly and Bemi and Tracy and Wade and Cheryl and Crystal and Renee and Paula for all they've given to make this program possible. Andrea and Antonio, thank you for your words tonight as well. Wonderful job. Thank you all so much. Would anyone like to say anything before we say our goodbyes?
I just wanted to mention a couple of Brown Bookshelf things coming up. And thanks again to Highlights for, seeing us, for celebrating us, and for investing in all of us. On Friday, look out for Black History Family Feud, which we're really happy to be partnering on. It's hosted by Kwame Alexander, and that'll be streamed on our Facebook page, as well as through SCBWI. Our 28 Days Later campaign will end at the end of the month. And in March, we will start back up with Generations Book Club. So please look out for those reading lists and share them. And let's make sure to show what we want with our dollar too. And then lastly, just wanted to thank again We Need Diverse Books for including us in the Black Creatives Fund. It's a 3-part program, and we are partnering on the marketing component, and you will hear more about that in the future. So thank you so much.
Good night.
Night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Beautiful celebration.
It was. Thank you, Wade.
Absolutely. Absolutely.